Hey everyone, this is Matthew and Ryan with Blackops, and in this tutorial we're going to be discussing the possible troubleshooting issues that you might come across with our M4 series. So that would include the Viper, the Cobra, and our Diamondback. So what we're going to do is pull out some possible scenarios that our customers will come across. I'll ask you and you can answer them because you're the expert.
That's great.
So let's start out with just something very simple like it won't fire.
Alright, well, naturally the first thing we want to do is make sure that we've got a battery inside the gun. Next, we want to make sure it's properly connected. Second, always make sure that the battery's been fully charged. A dead battery simply is not going to fire. The next thing that we might look for is the fuse. The fuse in these guns are going to be in various locations. In the Viper, it's going to be located in the handguard, right here. In the Cobra and Diamondback, it's actually going to be located inside the stock of the gun. And again, if you want to check that, you can simply take your stock, pull up on this lever here, pull straight out on it, and then down inside the tube, you're going to see the wires, and of course you can get to that fuse that way.
On the Diamondback.
On the Diamondback and the Cobra series.
And the Cobra series, obviously, because it doesn't have the adjustable stock.
Right.
You're just going to unscrew the back cap, and you're going to have your MOSFET device in there. It'll be a slightly different fuse than you'll find in the other two.
But very similar.
Very similar. All right. So the solution to that is to make sure we've got a good battery.
Mm-hmm.
If we question the battery, we can always compare it to something else, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what if I know my fuse is good?
Okay.
And I think my battery is good because I've either tested against a reliable one or I just know the battery's good. And I'm hearing a little click, maybe in the hand grip.
Well, what that tells me is that it's possible that, again, we're assuming that the battery's fully charged and the battery's good.
Mm-hmm.
Then your gearbox may have seized up on you because maybe you had used a battery that wasn't charged enough, so now that it's really just torqued those gears so that it's not quite enough there to kick on over to kick that spring loose. So what we're going to need to do in a case like that is, again, make sure our battery is 100% charged. And if you have access to even a stronger, a more mall, type battery, then we're going to want to go in and hook that up. And then again, we don't need to hold the trigger down. We just simply want to tap it and make sure that and go ahead and free up that gearbox.
So what we've hinted to in other tutorials, and what you're bringing up now, is the fact that sometimes some people can be a little ambitious, right? They'll get it right out of the box, connect in the batteries when it just has like hardly any charge left from the factory. Doesn't have enough charge to rotate those gears. We're seizing it up, and now you're suggesting that we can take a possible stronger battery like a 9.6 or higher, and just give it a quick little tap, see if it'll kick it and have enough juice to turn it over and unseize it.
Absolutely.
That's good to know. Very good to know. So something else that we can possibly think of is, what if I'm firing it and no BBs come out?
Well, number one thing that we want to check for again is any obstructions in our barrel. Again, you want to clean it like we've discussed in other tutorials. Second, you're going to want to make sure that your magazine, if it's a high cap, obviously you want to make sure that your BBs are being fed up to the end here and that your mag is fully wound. That will ensure a good consistent stream of BBs going up.
So if I'm firing away and it's firing normal, and all of a sudden I start hearing very loud cracks or so, and nothing's coming out, that's a good indication that either I'm out of BBs or I just need to wind it some more, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a pretty distinctive sound. When you've got nothing coming out versus that you've got a jam in there. It's going to be a real muffled sound versus a crack sound.
Perfect. So if it's a muffled sound, how do we clear a BB jam?
Well, we're going to take our cleaning rod here, and you're going to see on one end it's got the space for the cloth to go through. On the other end is kind of an angled end, and again we're going to make sure that our hop up is cranked all the way down
so we don't damage that.
Then we're going to take this, we're going to insert it with the angled end on it, and you don't shove it and ram it down there. You're just simply going to kind of tap it. And of course, if there is a BB lodged in there, it'll drop right out.
Does it matter what angle we put this ramrod into?
No, it actually doesn't. Again, that angle's there just to kind of, it doesn't want to put a a blunt force on the BB, just kind of an angle force, so that it'll, you know, kind of gently push that BB out.
Okay, and that will drop out actually.
It'll drop right out of the mag well.
Okay, awesome. So, so the possible solutions to this problem that we just discussed are a jam BB.
Right.
We can clean that out using the method you just discussed. Yeah. Also, it might possibly be something with our magazine where we don't have it properly wound, or we're just out of BBs.
Right, right. And again, one thing I'll mention as well is that, you know, not using quality BBs in the gun. You know, those are going to encourage, you know, jams. Poor quality BBs will actually fracture inside your gun. Well, of course, that leaves little bits and pieces inside there that can damage the internals of your gun.
Exactly. That's why we always recommend using our .20 gram and a 6mm biodegradable Blackops ammo. Really good quality ammo, polished, high tolerances, just fantastic stuff. Yeah. So you touched on the large cracking sound that you can get sometimes when nothing's going through there and we've got the trigger pulled down. Could that be causing damage if we do that excessively and we're dry firing?
It absolutely will. There, naturally, when you've got a BB inside your barrel, set it up against your bucking, it's got a slight back pressure on that piston head coming up against there. So, you know, if you're sitting there and you've got no BB inside that gun or no back pressure, that thing is basically like you sitting there and you're just hitting your fist against the wall. Eventually, it's going to break. You know, so there's nothing wrong with, you know, obviously checking your gun, but what you don't want to do is be running around with full auto on, dry firing your gun. That's just not good, and it's just a poor choice.
Since you mentioned full auto, let's continue down that path there. Is it good to keep it on full auto?
When you're out playing, you know, obviously there's going to be times that you're going to switch back and forth from semi to full. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. However, when you do those full auto bursts or strings that you do, you're going to want to flip that back to safety and pull that trigger once, twice, maybe 3 times. Again, what we're trying to do is keep that spring from compressing. And again, you know, that will result in lower FPS and a decrease in accuracy.
Good to know. Let's say another scenario is that we're shooting, the BBs are flying all different directions. We're not getting any accuracy, or we're just not getting any distance at all.
Okay. Well, that's a great question, because, you know, a lot of these guns, they're not going to be, you know, exactly where the customer's going to want it right out of the box. So naturally, first thing we're going to want to do is clean our barrel. We want to make sure that, you know, again, a clean gun is a happy gun. So we want to make sure that we do all that. Secondly, we're going to adjust our hop up. Again, that hop up is found right inside here. You know, obviously cranking it down turns it down. You know, cranking it up will actually turn it up. So anyways, what we're going to do there is we're going to get that, we're going to adjust that hop up to where that BB is just starting to climb when it comes out of your barrel. So again, you know, we want to just get it right there at that peak. We don't want it going out and doing a half moon up in the sky, because again, we're not shooting people out of the sky, you know, or things out of the sky. So we just want to make sure that we're just getting it to where it gradually starts to come out.
So if we have that hop up too far up, that could cause problems in jamming our
It absolutely will cause jams in the barrels. Again, that's going to end up with maybe if you got it turned up too high, you can actually damage your bucking inside your gun, because the BBs will actually be coming across it in such a force that it'll rip it.
Good to know. So what about things that would be throwing off our hop up? Things such as lubricants, like our silicone that we're cleaning with all the time, or that we're putting down in our magazine.
That's a great point. Obviously, if you get too liberal with your lubricants inside these things, it's going to affect the overall performance of the gun. Again, a hop up or bucking is providing a friction on that BB. So what you're looking for is that you still need that friction. Well, obviously, if you put a lubricant on there, it's taking away that. So you're basically just doing away with your hop up. So you know, if you do have an instance like that, well then again, we're going to want to take a cleaning rod with a nice towel or clean cloth and just kind of gently, you know, rubbing it down through there. Again, you need to make sure it's turned all the way off, but it will touch that, and we just want to make sure that we're getting as much of that lubricant is down, and make sure that I've seen a lot of people. It's kind of a myth going around. They take that silicone, they'll shoot it up inside here. Do not do that. that I don't know who come up with that idea, but that is bad business.
So if we're properly maintaining this, there is going to be a little bit of degree of residual silicone oil that will come up through. So maybe we should allow just a little bit of tolerance when it comes to after we've cleaned our barrel or serviced our magazine like that. Maybe just allow a tad bit of tolerance when it comes to deviations before all that's worn off, or should we just make sure that everything's clean and wiped off entirely before we?
All buckings require, or hop-ups require, what they call a breaking period. Depending on the material that you have inside there and the actual hardness of that is going to determine on how many rounds it's going to take to actually conform that bucking around your BB. So it may take 1,000 rounds for you to actually break in that gun. You know, and again, you're not necessarily breaking the gun as much as you are the hop-up. It slowly will form a groove in that bucking so that it helps with your accuracy of your gun.
So what you're saying is that we can and can't expect at the same time a dead shot right out of the box every time?
No, you're talking about a round projectile out of a non-rifle barrel, and it's not going to be 100% accurate all the time. You know, again, but we can get it as close as we need to make that hit, to make it count.
All right, Ryan, thank you for explaining all the different solutions for what could be possible troubleshooting issues that we could come up with the M4 series. Anything else you can think of?
Play safe and have fun.
Sounds good to me.